All righty, Jared. Well, thank you for joining me today. We really appreciate you taking this time. I'd love
Yeah.
to learn a little bit more about you and your background, and I guess what got you into franchise consulting.
Yeah. Well, thanks, Amanda. Thanks for having me. This is awesome. I love this. How I got into it, I feel like anytime I ask someone how they got into it, it's a very similar answer, and they usually say they fell into franchising. I hear that all the time, and the truth is, this is literally what happened to me. I did not set out to I want to get into franchising. It wasn't like when I was growing up with this dream of I want to play for the Chicago Cubs or be in franchising. It was like I literally fell into this. Previously, my previous career, I've been in vocational ministry. I was actually a pastor for a little over a decade. And I've served at different churches, at different sizes, at different capacities. And so I've served as a youth pastor before, and I've served as a teaching pastor, a discipleship pastor, and I've even led a church. We actually moved back to my hometown, Des Moines, Iowa, to plant a church. And so how it happened is we planted and we moved here January of 2020. Okay, following the timeline.
Hey,
So
yeah.
January of 2020. So a month and a half later, you couldn't be around people, and it got real hard to plant a church when you can't be around people. And with that, all the fundraising, all the funds went out the door. So me and a friend, we started trying to figure out other ways that we could still lead the church and supplement income. We looked at hundreds of different options and came across franchise consulting and invested into the brokers that we're part of, which is BAI. And they put us through all of the training and the certification process and everything that was involved in it. And that's kind of the long story made real short of how we kind of fell into franchising, and it's taken off. It's gone so well. I've eventually I've transitioned out of the church, and I helped my associate pastor kind of step into the lead pastor position and went full time into franchise consulting.
Oh, wow, you literally fell into it. And what a
Literally.
time, with 2020 being the year that you fell
Crazy.
into it too.
Yeah.
Very, very interesting. So where
Yeah.
are you originally from?
I'm from the metropolis of Des Moines, Iowa.
Okay,
So we
very,
like to
very
call it the
cool.
heartbeat of America. Yeah.
Oh, and why do you say that?
Because it's in the middle. It's like literally in the middle of the country. So
In the middle of
it's
nowhere?
it's largely farmland. It's where you get all your produce from. It feeds you, and so you're welcome, and all kinds of stuff. But where do you live?
I'm in Canada.
Canada. Wow. Okay. There you go.
Yeah.
There you
Yeah.
go.
So
And so
so
for
I'm just a little bit away from you,
a
not
little bit,
too
a little
far,
bit.
just a
So
plane
honestly,
ride.
you're one state away. But so you've probably never been to Iowa.
Actually, I have been to Iowa,
What?
and I went to Iowa. I think, now let me get this story straight. We were in Omaha, Nebraska,
Okay.
and then we drove to Iowa to go to Target, and then we
Yep.
came back to Nebraska.
Sounds right. That's
Because we
hilarious.
wanted to hit multiple states. And I mean, you could go
Yeah.
to Target in
What a way to do it.
Nebraska,
What
or
a way to
you
do
could
it.
just drive an
That's
extra 10
awesome.
minutes.
That's so good.
So I have been to Iowa, but I haven't been to where you live. But that's a really cool story. You definitely did fall into it.
I did
So
100%.
with your business specifically,
Mhm.
I guess when you're working with clients, what is your process for understanding their goals and their skills and ultimately their financial needs as well when it comes to the different franchise options that are out there?
Yeah. Yeah. Initially, it'll start with some kind of initial contact. I call it my triage call, so to speak. I usually hop on a phone with somebody. Usually, if it's online or if I'm working remotely, if it's in person, we'll have a short in-person call. But there's some kind of initial evaluation that I have to do to go, is this person a legitimate? Is there legitimate potential in this person? I don't need to know necessarily anything about their financial situation yet. I need to know are they socially not awkward, do they can I relate to them? Do they have goals and visions for the future? Is there potential for them to own a business? From there, then I'll go to which is my first step, which is what I call my strategy session call. And it's my first 45-minute, 60-minute call with them. We'll usually do it via Zoom because most people I work with are all over the world. And it'll be a strategy session where I'm working with them to kind of lay out their goals. And I go into those calls with the mindset of, I'm going to treat this person the same as I would treat myself caring for my family. I'm going to believe this person. I know this person has kids, and I know this person has a spouse. I know this person has family and friends that they deeply care about and love about. I'm going to take that to heart just as much as they do. And that helps me to really try to dig deep into who they are, to understand why they're wanting to do this. Because then from there, I feel like I can actually make an honest, like legitimate recommendation to them on the kinds of brands that they could look into. And so that's usually where it comes from, is a heart of their family to me, you know?
Oh, I love
Um,
that.
yeah, or at least try to treat them like that, you know, because at the end of the day, we're all just travelers in this life, and I know that they gotta put food on their kids' table. They want to get their kids to college. They want to take their kids on vacations and make memories, and this like franchising can do all of that. I believe that, and it's just got to be the right fit. And so usually that strategy session is the key conversation I have with them to figure out those goals. Yeah, we'll talk about financial situation there, because that's the biggest one that almost every franchise, when I first talk to them, they got to know, like, is this, like, I want to talk to the person, but is it worth the time? Like, do they even have the ability financially to do this? Because you can't buy a business on hope. So you have to have like at least the funds or the ability to, secure the funds to be able to do it. And so, yeah, that's a big part of the conversation too. But that strategy session call is the critical one for me.
Very cool. So, how are you evaluating and vetting different franchises before you're actually recommending them to your clients? What does that look like for you?
That's great. It's a great question. For me, I actually don't have to do much. And this is one of the beauties of being a part of the BAI network. There's a number of different brokerages. There's 5 or 6 big ones, like well-known ones. And BAI is one of the smaller ones of those 5 or 6. And smaller almost on purpose, because rather than letting thousands of brands be a part of the BI network, they take very seriously the vetting of these brands. And so they we still work with several hundred brands, but they manage a lot of the initial vetting process to let a brand come into the network to go, yeah, this is a legitimate opportunity, they're not a scam. And they maintain those relationships on top, like knowing like, oh, this brand's going through this. They're not one that currently can take on that. We're not going to refer people to them because of the situation. Like they know those things, and they stay on top of it. And so that's one of the beauties of being part of the BAI network.
Very cool. So, I guess more of like story time side of things. Tell
Yeah.
me about a time where you were working with a client and it was a little bit of a more challenging experience. How did you work through to find a really good franchise for them?
Yeah. What's funny is the first one that comes to mind, it actually didn't end in a franchise. And so I worked with the one that comes to mind, I wouldn't call it the one that got away, but the one that's like was the biggest headache for me. It's a guy from out in the New England area, and I actually worked with him for a year and a half.
Wow.
And we went through, it initially started with my very first contact with him. I knew that he was not at a place financially who was able to do this. And so in our very first conversation, we set up a couple of goals. And I stayed in contact with him about once a month for the next 6 months as he pursued those. And he got himself to a place where financially he could invest into a franchise. And the dude has a crazy background story of he was homeless at one point, and so now he's worked his way to a place of being able to buy a business, which is exciting. There's a whole lot that comes with that. And over the next year, we continue to kind of talk through and build up his net worth as well, and his liquidity, and get that cash on hand. And we actually started working with a funding partner, and he was qualified to get a loan. And so we started looking at certain brands and went through the discovery process of 3 or 4 different brands. And they're long processes. And for a couple of different reasons, either I agreed with him that it was not the right fit, or there was a couple of brands that I thought, I think this is the right fit. I think you're afraid to pull the trigger on this. Anyway, what happened at the end of it all, a year and a half later, after working with them, we had a serious heart-to-heart conversation, and just kind of telling him like, man, I care about you. I don't think mentally you're at a place right now where you should do this. And that's hard. because he
Yeah.
financially was qualified. For most consultants, that's like a no, I'm going to do whatever it takes to get this through. I can get a commission out of this and move forward. But it's like, I don't think you're ready for this. I would love to see this happen for you someday, but I think there's still a couple of things in your personal life that you've told me you need to work through, and let's get those squared away. And so it actually didn't end with him buying a franchise, and maybe it's not over yet. Maybe someday we'll get back together and he'll be at a place where he's able to do that. But yeah, that was probably the most challenging, difficult ones. There was several times I would feel like I was either banging my head against the wall, or I was like hurting for him, or I was excited for him and here, moving forward. And it was a roller coaster of a ride for sure.
I think it's so cool, though, that you stayed true to your values and treating him like family, and you'd give that advice to one of your family members as
Yep,
well. And so it just
exactly.
stays true to what you even said at the beginning, that you're treating everyone like family, whether it ends up in a franchise or it doesn't. The main
Yep.
thing is that they're supported and they're happy throughout that process too. So now
Exactly. It's the main thought is it's about people have to be first. Dale Partridge wrote a book called People Over Profit. Now, profit is important. I can't feed my own family if I'm not profiting, right? So that's important. But if that ever becomes more important than people, that's when bad practices really start to happen in any kind of business. That's where self-centeredness takes place. And it's yeah. So I like to. It's for me. It's trying to keep the focus of people over profit.
I love that. So
Yeah.
now let's flip the gears a little bit and walk
Yeah.
me through a story of where you had a candidate and you placed them with a really great franchise and now they're seeing success in it.
Yeah. Yeah. This past year, placed a guy. We looked at a couple of different brands. He was waiting between the opportunity of he was given a job promotion. It was a really big promotion, and he loved what he was doing. He was in the construction business and industry, and loved what he was doing. But he was waiting between, do I do that or do I do this business? And we talked through it, and ultimately it was his decision. Decided to move forward with the franchise, seeing the upside of it. And he's actually in Canada, and he's with a fitness brand that fits him and his family. They're huge into sports, big hockey fans, big hockey family, being from Canada. And he ended up getting three territories. One's underway, and working on the next one. And it's they're in the state right now where it's a lot of work. They're in the early stage of the franchise, and it's exciting to see him continuing to pursue the goals, knowing the discovery process isn't really even a part of pursuing your goals. That's just like once you sign, then the real work is started, and it's cool to see that taking place. So.
Oh,
Yeah.
that's great to hear. And we love a little Canadian shout out there.
No, don't you
Which
know?
province is he in?
He's in the east side,
Okay.
Edmonton.
On the East Coast, Nova Scotia, New Brunswick.
Edmonton, right? Isn't that
Oh, that's
or
the
west,
West
west? I meant
Coast,
west. I meant west. Sorry,
Jared.
my
Don't
fault.
worry, everyone. He's great at geography.
I'm
It's
from
just
Iowa.
Canada. It's
We only have
confusing.
central. I don't know. So
Oh, that's too
yeah,
good.
yeah,
Oh, that's awesome. So, one last question for you
yeah.
today, Jared. What do you find are some of the misconceptions that your clients have, or even clients in general have about franchising?
Some of the misconceptions that they have. A very popular one that I hear a lot is absentee. They want this to be they think because you're buying it, and it's something that another company owns, like it's owned by Schooley Mitchell, right? And they think that means it's an absentee kind of thing, or relatively absentee. And I haven't seen uh, an opportunity for that. I mean, I've seen like you can become absentee 10, 15, 20 years down the road. Um, when you've built up a 8-figure business and you have the right people in the place for you to be able to do that. But even still, you're involved. And that's a misconception. I try to communicate to people. It's like, you're the one investing into this. You're gonna be involved. Like you would never just throw $150,000 at something and be like, you guys take care of it. Like it's your business. So you're going to want to, especially if it's brand new, you're going to want to be the one to make sure you're over it in some capacity. And so the absenteeism thing just doesn't really seem to work. And it's not what franchising is about. That's the biggest one. I think that comes to mind. Another one is it's not even a misconception, because a lot of times it's accurate, but it's the conception of the broker that every so often I'll talk to someone who has worked with brokers before, or who understands or who knows what a broker is. Like, a lot of people have never even heard of what a franchise broker is. When I talk to my friends and people in the community, they're like, what is that? What do you do? And I'll explain it. But for people who have heard of that, there is unfortunately this like initial sour taste in their mouth for a lot of people, as if I'm like some used car salesman who's sleazy and not. I didn't mean to knock on used car salesmen, but you know what I mean? Like I'm trying to I only care about, like, I'm going to make money off of them. And I think realtors get that same kind of rap a lot too. And it's just unfortunate, because that's not the case with every broker. Like, I work I'm in the BAI network. I know 100 other consultants that just deeply care about people. And yes, they're going to profit off of this, but they're also going to work their butt off to make sure your future is secure through franchising. And so, like, it's just it's an unfortunate conception of the role of the franchise broker that, it's not worth trying to fight to change that mentality on a global perspective. But for the individual clients I get to work with, I try to either write the script for the first time for them about who we are and what we do, or try to rewrite it if it's someone who's had a bad taste in their mouth for brokers before.
Yeah, it's educating one by one, anyone that you
Yeah.
run into, right? And
Yeah.
staying true to who you are in that whole process.
Yeah.
I love that. And I've loved to get to know you over the last couple of years too with BAI. You're great to work with, by the way. So shout out to you. Very responsive, and we've had a great experience here. But thank you. Thank you for joining me today. I really appreciate you taking this time.
Yeah.
And I look forward to seeing what else we can do together this year.
Yeah, thanks, man. I know we got at least one deal under our belt this past year with a client, and so I'm excited to continue to work with Schooley Mitchell. You guys do such a fantastic job through the whole discovery process, both with my client and with me as a broker, which is really, really rare in this space. There are a lot of franchisors, a lot of brands that will just receive the referral or will take the email from me, and then they don't really want to talk to me again, or they are too busy to really communicate well. And it's just like, well, maybe your closing would be a higher rate if we did this together. I don't know, just a thought. But so I really appreciate the work you guys do and how much you guys care about people in general, especially the clients we send over. So
thank you so much for that feedback. And we stay true to, communicating with not only you as a broker or a consultant, but also the candidates as well, because it's so important to us. And it's important in laying out that foundation at the beginning of their discovery process of what this is going to look like operationally for them as well with their business.
Yeah.
I feel like the discovery process sets that tone of what they're
100%.
going to expect. And so if we're responding and communicating with you who brought in the referral to us, that's what we want to also teach our franchisees to do as well. Stay in contact with your referral partners, treat them like their friends and their family, follow up with them, even if it's a quick email to say, we had a great conversation. I'll give you a call in 3 days when I'm not so busy. And you can do something like that. Or even
100%.
a simple thank you goes so far.
It's the truth. Yeah. Just be kind,
Yes,
try that.
absolutely.
Yeah.
Kindness is key. That's for sure.
That's great.
That's awesome.
This has been a pleasure. This has been a joy of mine. So thank you, Amanda, for having me.
Well, thank you.
Yeah.
Okay.